There's something magnetic about a man who walks into a room and doesn't need to say a word. He doesn't try too hard. He doesn't seek attention. Yet the attention finds him. Women look up. Some instinct is triggered. They don't know why, but they feel something. It's not just about looks. It's not the clothes. It's an energy, a way of being, a frame. And that is where everything begins. Most guys think attraction is about what you do, what you say, what lines you use. But that's only the surface. The truth, the uncomfortable, raw truth, is that the most obsessive desire a woman feels starts from what you are, from the way you carry yourself when no one's looking, from the micro-expressions that show your self-trust, from the decisions you make when there's pressure, and yes, from the way you don't react when others would crumble. There are attitudes, deeply ingrained, masculine mindsets, that when you embody them, flip a switch in her subconscious. Not just attraction, not just interest, obsession, a hunger she doesn't fully understand. And the first of these, the one most men try to fake but very few can actually live, is presence. Real, grounded, unapologetic presence. Presence is more than being physically there. It's about attention, focus, stillness. When you're with her, your attention isn't scattered. You're not scrolling your phone. You're not looking over her shoulder to see who else is in the room. Your energy is anchored, solid. She feels it. And what's wild is, even if she doesn't want to like you, even if she tells herself she's not going to fall, her body responds. There's a reason ancient warriors practiced stillness. Why leaders like Marcus Aurelius valued silence over noise? Because presence communicates power. The kind of power that doesn't need to announce itself. It's internal, calm, non-reactive, and it's addictive. When you're present, she feels seen, not judged, not rushed, just seen. And that, for a woman, is rare. It's sacred. It's dangerous. But presence only works when it's real. You can't force it. You can't pretend to listen while thinking about something else. You have to train it, through meditation, through breath, through eye contact without fear, through being willing to sit in silence without filling the void. Because when a man is comfortable in silence, the woman fills it with her desire. Now, presence is the foundation. But the second attitude, the one that amplifies everything, is detachment. Emotional non-neediness. And this one is even more misunderstood. Most men chase, they try to impress, they invest early, too much too soon, and they kill the mystery, they smother the spark. But the man who is detached, he doesn't chase, he chooses, he observes. He lets her come closer while he remains unshaken. And the craziest thing is, the less he needs her, the more she needs him. Neil Strauss talked about this in The Game, the idea that mystery and challenge fuel attraction. But it goes deeper than just being a challenge. It's about showing through your energy that your self-worth is not negotiable, that her beauty doesn't buy access to your emotions, that you can appreciate her, but you don't crave her. This isn't about being cold. It's about having boundaries, standards, knowing that your life is full, that your cup is not empty, waiting to be filled by her approval. And when a woman feels that, when she senses that you're okay with or without her, it drives her insane, in the best way. She starts to wonder, why isn't he trying harder? Why isn't he texting first? Why is he so calm when I pull away? That's when obsession begins. When a woman is emotionally confused, not because you're playing games, but because you're genuinely in control of your emotions, she starts investing, she starts chasing, she starts craving clarity. And you, by doing less, provoke more. It's the paradox. The man who needs her the least is the one she wants the most. Because that kind of detachment is rare. It's masculine, it's alpha, and it's deeply attractive. But here's the trap. Don't fake detachment. If you're pretending not to care while secretly hoping she texts, she'll feel it. Women are emotional detectors. They can smell neediness under the mask. Real detachment is about building a life that excites you. A mission, a passion, a sense of purpose that's bigger than any one woman. And when that's real, she knows. She sees it in your eyes, in your calmness, in your ability to walk away. Not to punish her, not to manipulate, but because you can. because you respect yourself enough to not collapse when someone else pulls back. These first two attitudes, presence and detachment, are not techniques. They're foundations, and without them, no strategy works. But when they're solid, everything else becomes effortless. She starts checking your social media, rereading your texts, trying to decode your silences. And the best part? You didn't have to do anything extra. You simply were. This is the effect of a man who doesn't rush in, who isn't emotionally starving, who has mastered the balance between attention and absence. And now she's hooked. The next layer of this psychological magnetism is a man's ability to embody unpredictability. Not chaos, not immaturity, but strategic unpredictability. When a man is too predictable, too available, too easy to figure out, her mind relaxes. There's no more mystery, no more thrill. But when you surprise her, subtly, intelligently, you stimulate her curiosity, you trigger her imagination. And that's where real seduction lives. Women crave emotional stimulation. It's why they love drama series, plot twists, unexpected romance. And when you become the source of that emotional variety, not in a toxic way, but in a controlled, self-aware way, you become unforgettable. Maybe one day you're deep and reflective, sharing something powerful from your past. The next, you disappear into your mission. Then you reappear, more focused, more energized, with a new story, a new edge. She can't pin you down, and that drives her wild. What most men don't realize is that predictability kills polarity. It makes you safe and boring. But a man who can shift gears, from seductive to stoic, from playful to intense, keeps her guessing. And the human brain, especially the feminine brain, is wired to crave resolution. So she keeps thinking about you, even when she doesn't want to, even when she tells her friends she's over it. Because deep inside, there's something unresolved, some part of her still trying to figure you out. The power of unpredictability isn't about being erratic. It's about knowing when to lean in and when to disappear, when to compliment her in a way that touches her soul, and when to tease her so she remembers you in the middle of the night. It's about being emotionally dynamic, controlled, playful, masterful, and most men are simply too flat, too emotionally static. That's why they never provoke obsession. Now, let's dive even deeper, because the next attitude is one that most guys don't cultivate because it requires inner work, emotional depth. See, a lot of men stay in the surface zone. They talk about facts, their job, their gym routine, their car. But none of that creates a real imprint. None of that leaves her thinking about you at 2 a.m. What does? The man who dares to go deeper. The man who's not afraid of emotions, but who masters them. The man who can talk about pain without becoming weak. The man who can share a story that reveals his journey, not as a victim, but as a warrior who grew from it. Women become obsessed with men who have layers, who show complexity, who can be strong and soft, bold and vulnerable, dominant and kind. Because that contrast, that duality, it makes them feel alive, and safe, and intrigued, and completely immersed in you. But again, and this is important, it has to be real. You can't fake emotional depth. You either do the inner work or you don't. You either face your past, learn from it, rise from it, or you keep playing on the surface and wondering why nothing sticks. When a man owns his story without being defined by it, he becomes magnetic. And she feels that. She sees it in how you speak, how you listen, how you respond instead of react. And her desire for you becomes emotional, not just physical. This emotional layer is where obsession is born, because sex might be the spark, but emotional resonance is the glue. She remembers how you made her feel. She replays those moments. That one conversation. That look you gave her when she opened up. That pause before you said something that shook her walls. That's what lingers. That's what haunts her. In the best way. You see, obsession doesn't come from chasing, or proving, or trying to impress. It comes from your essence, the invisible force of your being. The way you hold space, the way you show restraint, the way you reveal depth, not all at once, but just enough to make her lean in, want more, crave more. Think about you at random times during the day, wondering if she'll ever find another man like you. And in her heart, she already knows the answer. She'll never admit it out loud, but she starts feeling a quiet panic. Not because you've done something dramatic, Not because you're pulling away in some game, but because she realizes something rare. She can't control how much she thinks about you. And this doesn't happen because you were loud. It happens because you were solid. Because your presence, your unpredictability, and your emotional depth created a storm inside her while you remained calm. Now, here's where the game changes even more, when you integrate playfulness with authority. Not dominance in the insecure, overcompensating way most men try to mimic, but grounded, relaxed authority. The kind that doesn't raise its voice. The kind that leads without needing to be followed. The kind that creates trust and tension at the same time. You see, most guys fall into one of two traps. They either become too serious, always trying to be the alpha, rigid, controlling, or they try to be funny and end up being the clown, soft, agreeable, and forgettable. But the man who balances masculine direction with playful unpredictability, he's unforgettable. He's the type that leaves a woman smiling 1 minute and speechless the next, because she feels the edge. She feels that you could devour her if you wanted to, but you don't need to, and that restraint is more seductive than anything you could say. This is the attitude of calibrated leadership. You guide without forcing. You tease without disrespect. You challenge without wounding. You let her feel your power, but you never use it to hurt. That's what makes her respect you, crave you, submit to you not because you demand it, but because her instincts recognize you as a man who doesn't need to posture. When a woman meets a man who embodies both humor and strength, both intensity and lightness, she gets emotionally addicted, not to what he gives her, but to who he is when he's around her. He becomes a drug she didn't know she needed, one that makes her feel safe and alive at the same time. And she'll keep coming back for that dose, sometimes even against her own logic. But this can't be faked either. You don't become that man by reading a line or memorizing a trick. You become that man by knowing who you are, by playing with the world but not letting it change your values, by making her laugh but never losing your edge. That's the fire and ice polarity that awakens something ancient inside her. And now we go even deeper into the psychological core of what provokes true obsession, the man who gives her space to bloom while maintaining mystery. Women are intuitive, emotional, sensitive. They know when a man is trying to mold them, control them, box them in, and it repels them. Even if they don't say it out loud, even if they play along, the obsession doesn't grow in captivity. It grows in freedom, when it's met with mystery. So when you give her space, not out of fear, not out of disinterest, but out of confidence, you let her dance in your energy. You let her come closer by choice. You let her reveal layers she doesn't even show to her friends. And that's when you become unforgettable. Not because you tried to take control, but because you let go of the need to control. Mystery, here, isn't about hiding things. It's about being ungraspable, not fully figured out, not explained in one conversation. You don't tell your whole life story the first night. You don't need to impress her with every detail of your life. You let her wonder. You let her feel. And in that space, her desire grows on its own. She starts filling in the blanks, making assumptions, romanticizing, creating stories in her mind. And now she's emotionally invested in a version of you that's rooted in truth, but also in the beautiful unknown. That's when her mind loops. That's when she starts fantasizing. That's when obsession takes root, because she can't stop thinking about what she doesn't fully know yet. And the best part? You don't chase. You don't explain. You don't try to correct her image of you. You let her imagination do the work. And every time you show up again, calm, grounded, intentional, you reinforce the spark. You feed the flame without smothering it. And in a world full of men who over-explain and overshare, you become the one she can't quite figure out. She might try to distract herself, see other men, immerse in her routine, tell herself you're not that different, that it was just a moment, just a phase. But then she hears something that reminds her of you, a scent, a phrase, a memory, and that's all it takes. You're back in her mind, not because you pushed your way in, but because you never really left. That's what happens when a woman doesn't fully solve the puzzle of who you are. She keeps trying, over and over, in silence when no one is watching. Now we touch on something primal, an attitude that few men understand but every truly magnetic man embodies. It's the silent embodiment of mission, a man's deep connection with his purpose. Not a goal, not just a job, not an income level or a status marker, but a calling, a direction so rooted, so personal, so meaningful that it orients his entire life. When a woman meets a man like that, everything changes. Because he's not asking her to complete him. He's not making her the center of his world. She becomes a part of his world, and that's a world she wants to be in. Purpose creates polarity. Because a man who's on a mission is harder to access. Not because he's playing games, but because he's busy building something bigger than seduction, something eternal. And that's incredibly attractive. She senses it in your discipline, in your choices, in the way you say no without guilt, in the way you show up, sharp, clear, moving forward. She sees that you're not emotionally available 24/7. You're not orbiting around her moods. You're not waiting on her text. You're working, evolving, creating. And that, for a woman, becomes an emotional aphrodisiac. It creates anticipation, tension, hunger. Because the moment she realizes she doesn't have total access to you, because your time, your energy, your attention is invested in something bigger, that's when the desire intensifies. That's when she starts scheduling around you, not the other way around. That's when your presence feels rare. And rarity breeds value. There's a direct link between purpose and attraction. And not just short-term attraction, but long-term obsession. Because purpose equals direction. Direction equals leadership. And leadership, when embodied without ego, is one of the sexiest things a man can carry. You don't need to declare it. You just live it. You're not seeking approval, you're seeking growth, you're not chasing women, you're chasing evolution. And ironically, that's when women start chasing you. But there's more. Because obsession doesn't come only from masculine traits. It also grows from how you make her feel as a woman. And that leads us to a trait that many overlook, the ability to awaken her femininity. In a world where women are constantly told to be strong, dominant, independent, which is fine in the right context, many of them secretly crave a man who allows them to surrender. Not in weakness, not in submission to control, but in surrender to feeling. When you show up as a grounded, calm, directional presence, she softens. Not because you force her to, but because her body wants to. She feels like she doesn't have to protect herself anymore. She can melt. She can express. She can be playful, emotional, sensual, because she feels safe in your energy. And when a woman feels emotionally and energetically safe, she opens up. And that opening creates obsession. It's not about telling her what to do. It's not about dominating her with words. It's about holding a space so stable, so confident, so clear, that she naturally relaxes into her essence. You become the grounding she didn't even know she needed. You don't react to her tests. You don't get thrown off by her emotional waves. You stay steady. And that steadiness creates emotional tension that she loves. It's not boring. It's not robotic. It's the calm she's been secretly craving. She starts associating you with the most feminine, most alive, most herself version of her. And that is addictive. Because now she doesn't just like you, she likes how she feels when she's around you. She feels more beautiful, more expressive, more in her body. And that emotional link becomes a loop she doesn't want to break. That's where obsession grows. Quietly, deeply, permanently. And now we arrive at one of the most subtle, yet most powerful attitudes, sexual self-control. The ability of a man to not be ruled by his impulses, to not act like a slave to his desires, but a master of them. Most men give up their power the moment there's a hint of sex. They change their behavior, they become agreeable, they disconnect from their center. But the man who remains grounded, even in the face of temptation, who can look desire in the eyes without losing his edge, triggers something in her that drives her wild. Self-mastery. Because a woman doesn't become obsessed with a man who desires her like everyone else. She becomes obsessed when she realizes that even though he wants her, he doesn't need her. He doesn't chase, he doesn't beg. He doesn't fall into the trap of physical need. He watches, he enjoys, he makes her feel desired, but not as a goal, as a gift. And that flips the entire game. Now she starts wondering how to access him, how to awaken that fire he keeps under control. Sexual self-control doesn't mean repression, it means channeling. It means using that energy as fuel, creative, magnetic, raw. It means staying unpredictable. It means being selective, intense, and yet calm. And that calm drives her crazy. She starts wondering, why didn't he touch me? Why didn't he go further? Does he want me or not? And that uncertainty, that tension, is where obsession is born. Because it activates the emotional, the physical, and the psychological, all at once. And now we close with the final attitude, the one that elevates all the rest. Unapologetic authenticity. In a world full of masks, of men who mimic lines, copy personalities, pretend to be something they're not. The man who shows up real, raw, and unfiltered becomes magnetic. Because the unexpected isn't perfection. The unexpected is truth. The man who doesn't hide his flaws, who doesn't inflate his strengths, who stands in his essence without apology. Being authentic isn't about saying, "That's just how I am," to justify your weaknesses. It's about not wearing a costume to get approval. It's speaking from your center, making eye contact without fear, walking into the world with your values intact, not begging, not performing, not adapting like a chameleon to please. And that is revolutionary, because women are used to performance, to curated behavior. But when she meets a man who's not acting, who's just being, she feels it, deep in her body. She may not even know why, but she remembers him, because he didn't just talk, he was. He is. When you embody all 8 of these attitudes, presence, detachment, unpredictability, emotional depth, relaxed authority, purpose, sexual control, and raw authenticity, you stop being just another guy. You become an experience, a storm, a memory she can't escape. Because you didn't just touch her body, you invaded her mind. And obsession doesn't begin in the bedroom. It begins in the mind. If any part of this hit home for you, if it made you reflect or shook something awake inside you, then don't keep it to yourself. Drop a comment and tell me which of these attitudes you're already living and which ones you're ready to develop. Smash that like button if even one sentence shifted your perspective. And subscribe, because this is just the beginning. Every time you engage with this content, you help spread a message that can awaken more men, more kings, more grounded warriors who are done with average. You're not just a viewer. You're part of this. And this mission, it's just getting started.